MSP Summit, September 2025 by Channel Partners in Orlando. Great event, big event, really enjoyed it. Had 13 great conversations with vendors and MSPs. Really well attended, well organized. I love working with Bob and the team there. The first interview was with Greg Talone from Cloud IBR. Really enjoyed it. Really interesting man. I look forward to talking with Greg some more and maybe even playing some golf. Logan, of course, from Vendasta. Fascinating platform that helps MSPs. They're in another area. They're moving towards, they want to move towards MSPs to see how they can help them grow. Russ Reeder. Oh my goodness. Great MSP, XTM. Really enjoyed talking to Russ. I'm always fascinated with the growth of those large kind of master MSPs. They are master MSPs. William Rubio, of course, from Call Tower. Love working with Call Tower. He's the CRO there. They're offering a lot of areas that really MSPs need to look to expand in. Great conversation with William. Scott, of course, Scott Furman from a very great conversation. He's head of operations there, and really interesting take on what he does and how he helps MSPs, how his firm helps MSPs. Jeff Hill from Stellar Cyber. Really like talking to Jeff. He's Bulldog. He's really interesting insights. Conversation went by really quickly. Great conversation with Jeff. Ryan Stoner, who I have known for a long time. He's now with Judy Security, doing really great things, helping MSPs. Zan Stevenson. Very interesting. We opened the conversation up with just finance and where he thought he was lacking, and really dove into it and can help people in it. Has great insight right all over, to what he does now in networking and helping MSPs. Niels, yes, Niels was great too. He loves fixing things. He buys broken things and fixes them, just has an engineering mind, and how Keep It can help MSPs grow and help protect their clients. Great conversation with Neil. Paul, of course, Mander from Optory. Great conversation with Paul. The whole area, social engineering. I knew very little about this. I know a little bit more, but he's here to help MSPs. Jacci Robinson, of course, from, Anunta, right? From Connecticut, the state that I'm from. Great insight on how to help MSPs with their great desktop as a service. Michelle Raguso McBain, my longtime friend, been asking her to be on the podcast for years. She's now with a company called Red Access, doing great things there. Always love talking to Michelle. Great insight, great spirit, great energy. I just can't say enough great things about Michelle. And then lastly, of course, Cale Eisenberg, great company from Vercom. We're doing a lot of work with Vercom. Cale's got great insight. I've known Cale for 5 or 6 years now. We kind of touched base a while ago, but came back now. We have a lot of friends in common. We start off with a very interesting subject of barbershop quartets. He's a 2025 champion, and bring it right into helping MSPs with security and email security and other great services Vercom has. Great time there at the MSP Summit. Thanks so much. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because of working way too much. I found myself at 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. I took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People ask me, how'd you do it? What's the secret? I need to lose weight. How'd you do it? How did I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually asked them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others. So tell me what it's like to be a full-time professional and still have 3 kids under 7.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have a husband that is absolutely amazing.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So he's also an executive. So he's a senior executive and a partner with his firm. I don't know how we do it, but we figure out a way to do it, and it's been fun. But like, he's my biggest supporter, truly.
Wow.
So like, when we first met, it was very clear that I was a career woman.
I see. And how interesting. How was that clear?
Well, I just made it clear.
I see. Verbally.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I
So
see.
we had on our first date, we had a big conversation about what we wanted in our marriage and in our life. And
how diplomatic.
Yeah. We were just like, so should we proceed to the next date? Like, it was very.
Did you sign anything?
Yeah. No, we didn't sign any contracts at that time. But,
at that time.
I travel and I don't get he doesn't give me a lot of pushback. Some people travel, whether you're male, female, for business. And
that's awesome.
You get a lot of pushback from your significant other for all the travel. And, I think the first time I ever got pushback from him was a couple years ago when I traveled 8 weeks in a row. And that was the first time. And that was a lot of travel.
It's tough on everybody.
It's tough on everybody. Yeah. So,
yeah.
But he's like my number one supporter.
So important.
Yeah.
So important. Mm-hmm. And we grew up miles away from each other. I'm from Wallingford, Connecticut. You're from Southington.
Yeah. I am from Southington, Connecticut.
Great part of the country.
Yeah, it's a good part of the country. I also lived in Alabama, and the central part of Connecticut is very much like
is it really?
Alabama. Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't
I've never
hear that
been.
because typically people don't go to Alabama, but I went there. And
what brought you there?
Oh boy, what else?
Of
what
course,
else? It was in my youth.
I see.
It's where I started my career. In tech. So.
Yeah, I think Alabama. I think isn't NASA there? I think,
in Huntsville.
Huntsville,
yeah,
right.
Huntsville.
That's what I think when I hear Alabama. Yeah. So we're here, of course, Jacci, in Orlando at the big MSP Summit. What are some of your goals this week?
Oh, well, it's absolutely to meet other MSPs that are, interested in having conversations around the digital employee experience. We've got a lot of MSPs in the market that really need a partner like us, essentially to white label our solutions and our services, right? So we do all day 2 services, day 1, day 2, day 0 services around, VDI, desktop as a service, and making sure that the end user desktop is operating nice and fast. And so a lot of the MSPs, they have customers where they need help with that. Yeah. There's riches in the niches, I like to say. Yeah.
I mean, desktop as a service kind of ramped up for a while, and then it kind of slowed down a bit. It seemed to me, I could be wrong, and now it seems to be making a resurgence.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Why is that?
When the economy changes.
Yeah,
that's what happens.
It's driven by the economy.
Yeah. Well, I think it's driven by a lot of different things. I think companies, they want to figure out a way to reduce the amount of spend that they have, and a couple ways to do that is like not invest in the infrastructure, not invest in the actual like refresh of PCs, but how do you make them last a little bit longer? And when times are tough, people are trying to figure out how to stretch that dollar. And a lot of times they already have access to desktop as a service tools with their other licensing models. They just don't know how to actually deploy it, right? So like we help companies and, with Omnissa, AVD, get those tool sets deployed and frankly, like managed, because hiring the talent is the hardest thing that knows what to do, knows how to manage those things. And it's like, do you want to hire the talent?
Right.
Or do you want that talent working on products and solutions that are going to drive more revenue? Right. So
how does Anunta help MSPs?
So Anunta helps MSPs because how we do that is by offering our services as a white label service. We're able to help them expand the amount of revenue potential they're able to get from their customer base.
By doing what?
By offering their customers something else. Right? A lot of MSPs, they're focused, right? If you're an MSSP, you're focused in security. A lot of the MSPs here that have come up to me and have asked, hey, I need an alternative. I need someone, all my customers are asking me to help them manage their tickets and their desktops and all of those things. We need a partner to help. They need another way to do it, and they don't want to make the investments in-house to actually run that day 2 service or run that service offering.
I'm unfamiliar with day 2 service.
Oh, sure. Let me help you with that. Yeah. So, well, let's start there. Let's lay out all the acronyms we're going to use today. Yeah. Right. So day 2 is like fingers on the keyboard, like who's actually managing your day to day.
Interesting. What's day 1?
Day 1 is when you actually do the deployment.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's like the day 1 is the deployment of, let's just use Azure Virtual Desktop or Omnissa Horizon. Day 1 is, deploying the solution. Day 0 is the planning. Day 1 is deploying the solution, and then day 2 is your fingers on the keyboard, like the ongoing day-to-day management of the solution. And so a lot of the MSPs, like in order for you to run that, you have to hire a team. You have to have all this infrastructure. Well, with Anunta, you don't need to have that. You can just, white label our solution. You get a particular margin based on what it is that you sell. And you're able to actually expand the total addressable budget or market share in your actual customer base because you're able to offer something different than what you offer today.
Wow.
That's adjacent.
That's the important thing. That is adjacent to what they're already offering. So do you provide hardware?
We don't provide the hardware. But we do provide all the operational back end. And we have our own IP with UVantage and Desktop Ready and Cloud Optimal to help with the management of those devices. And that's all included in the day 2 service. So instead of them having to bolt everything together to build like that piece of the business, they can just white label us and we'll do it for them. Yeah.
So MSP's clients opening up a new office, right? And they have to roll out 20, there's going to be 20 employees there. Yep. So what they would typically do is buy 20 work. Day 0 would be planning everything. Yeah. They'd order everything.
Yep. The MSP would buy it for them probably.
Right. Most likely. Yeah. And then they'd go on site and they'd get it all wired and they'd all connect it. So what's different with your solution?
Well, that's the MSP would do all that work.
Still.
They would still do all that work. And what we would do is we would just manage it on the back end for that customer at a flat rate.
So they wouldn't need. They still need operating systems on the workstation.
Oh, of course, yeah, they do, right? Yeah. And what the desktop does is you package it. It's in a package. And so you just access that package, and then you have a third party or a partner managing. So if there's a problem, you email your IT guy, right, which would be your MSP, right, and we would help that MSP on the back end. Yeah.
So nothing gets stored locally on that workstation?
Not if you're in a VDI environment. It gets stored in the infrastructure.
All in the infrastructure.
Whether it be Azure or AWS or whatever it is you're running. Yeah.
So it wouldn't need the typical horsepower of a standalone? Could they get is the hardware still the same, the requirements?
Well, it just depends on what your user's doing, right? Like an engineer is going to need a bigger PC, more power, right? But like your typical knowledge worker,
accounting,
you're going to need similar power. But what happens is when you have all these disparate desktops around and they're not being managed, like how do you go and make sure that they all have the patches? Like we've all heard the story, somebody that I know who runs a company. His IT guy went around with a thumb drive to all 68 locations to update all of the PCs.
Wow.
Like that's not desktop management, right? Like think about the time, energy, and effort in just scaling that when you can actually do it with a managed device and desktop management. So these MSPs that have companies that are 5 locations, 10 locations, or even just an office that they're managing, they're usually doing the network, they're doing the security, and the adjacent thing to sell them to grow their profitability is the desktop piece.
It seems like a logical next step.
It does, yeah.
And the technology, for a while though, it was a lot of overhead. So this is 15 years ago, Jacci, right? When it was kind of being first introduced. I'm sure it's many iterations better, but the problems were there was a lot of overhead and it was slow. I'm sure these things are all gone.
I mean, we all logged into a Citrix PC at
one
point, right?
Citrix
and we all
PC,
complained about it. Like, what do? We logged in, we went to the kitchen, we got a cup of coffee, we came back. If it wasn't working, we were talking to our coworker, right?
Yeah.
That's what we were doing. But times have changed, right? People have to be able to access their applications, their data, wherever they are.
Wherever they are.
In a secure way. Right. So like the desktop as a service and VDI is also a way from a security perspective. So it also helps with security too.
So I'm a former MSP. I started the MSP there in Wallingford back in '93.
What was the name of it? Maybe I know.
Forza. Forza. Yeah. I sold it in 2019. So I still talk to many MSPs today. We've got a huge network. And the things that keep them up, Jacci, now are similar for like 5 or 6 years. One being security. If their clients get attacked, they've got to allocate resources. They're going to lose money. They're probably going to be fired. They may even be sued.
Yeah.
Right. 2 is human capital. If their big techs leave, how are they going to replace them? How are they going to get new one? Unemployment in the IT space here in the States is 1%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very tough to get. And 3 is just growth. Private equity has poured in hundreds of millions of dollars into the space. Their friends are selling their MSPs, getting nice cars. How are we going to grow? How can you help in those?
Well, there's 2 things that we're seeing in the market right now, and there's big market shifts happening. So we see with Citrix in particular, right? Like Citrix has gone and taken the old playbook from Broadcom, right? Sold to VC. And all these partners who are running Citrix on behalf of their customers right now, if they don't offer their customers an alternative, because during renewal time, they will see 100% plus increase in licensing, that is an existential crisis that they're in. So that's the first thing. That's big. Who else is doing that? You're going to start seeing other VMware doing that as well. And so they have to have an alternative offer, because if they don't, and their customer is stuck paying 100%, what happens to the budget for your solutions? So the best partners that I've seen, what they've done is they've said, all right, how do I help my customer move money from one solution they're buying to reallocate that to a project that they really want to capture? So there's an existential threat with companies who are still on the Citrix bandwagon there.
Those legacy systems.
Those legacy. And the thing is that it takes time for that to do that migration, right? It takes 6 months, depending on the size, it could take a long time. And it's like, if you don't go and offer that alternative to your customer and you're just status quo, like all is well, they're going to go somewhere else to potentially try and find an alternative. So that's the first thing that we're seeing in our market specifically. The second thing that we're seeing is absolutely the talent shortage.
Yeah.
So how do I get the right talent at the right time to help me with my needs? And then I don't want to keep them full time, right? I want to keep them for a certain amount of time. I make all these investments in that talent. I train them, I get them up to speed, and then they leave because they find something better, or their career takes them in another direction. An MSP or a partner like Anunta really helps with that.
Wow.
Because we have 1,000 employees, Anunta. Right? All of our employees are dedicated to being on the bench for our customers and really enabling them, to do the business as usual work. All these companies are trying to do is trying to figure out how to drive more revenue, and business as usual doesn't drive direct revenue. It's not fancy. There's nothing sexy about it. It's just lights on operations. And in times when there's been recessions, like I remember 2009, 2008, I remember in 2010 when we had that dip again, companies want to outsource. So the opportunity is there.
So an MSP has a rollout of, let's just say one particular client's got 50 workstations and they're looking to implement the Anunta solution. What's the process now?
So if an MSP, sorry, I'm drinking coffee here.
Yeah, it's early in the morning.
Yeah, it's early. So obviously they would, engage with us. We would want to run a baseline on what it is, what are the amount of tickets the customer has now, and what KPIs particularly are they trying to change within their business, right? And then we take that data and we run that baseline. And in an ideal sense of the world, we want to understand even the customer sentiment. So now we're getting into the DEX and digital employee experience models and maturity models. So we want to understand the experience of the employee. Now, we just ran a gap report, an IT gap analysis report, and what we found is that IT leaders think that the employees are very satisfied with IT, but the employees came back and there's like a 30% differential. Like they are not as satisfied with it. And what happens is instead of engaging IT, they just try and solve it, or they just don't do anything at all, right? And so we want to measure all those baselines first. Then we come in, we do day 0, which is the planning. We do day 1, which is the deployment of the solution. And then day 2, the MSP stays to be the face. And then we just help them operationally on the back end.
Wow. So the biggest obstacle for an MSP to look into this, to virtual desktop, is what?
The biggest obstacle for an MSP, it's their willingness to go adjacent.
I see.
Because they're easy conversations, but they have to be trained a little bit, right? It's, hey, how are things going on your desktop? Hey, are your users complaining? You know, it's asking the right questions to really identify the opportunities. The MSPs that came up to me this week at MSP 501, like, they're like, we have problems. Our customers are asking us for this, and we don't know how to offer it to them. Can you help us? Right? And so they're already having these conversations because they're adjacent.
They're right there, yeah. Jacci, what should vendors do to be better partners with MSPs?
Well, what does the vendor want? The vendor wants access to the customers. And what is the MSP?
That's a problem.
Yeah, it's
That's
problem.
a big problem because it's MSP. They're the clients. And they don't look at it that way. MSPs.
No, right, exactly.
Yeah.
So where I'm getting at here is that what does the vendor want? They want access to the customers. What does the MSP want? MSP wants control and they want margin. And they want an opportunity that makes sense. And frankly, that's like kind of easy to sell. It's in a box. You just go and you sell it. And if there's a need, the customer's there and, you know, it makes sense. That's what I think the MSPs really want. But I think the difference between a partner and an OEM or a manufacturer and an MSP is that there's synergy there, but you just have to make sure that you're aligned. And I can't express enough the proactiveness and the communication and the partnership is really going to be the differentiator. There's way too many people out there that are just takers. They just want what you have, right? They just want access to your people, but they don't actually, or they're your customers, but they don't actually make the appropriate time investments. They're not actually interested in you as a human. And so the relationships become very transactional. I call this business like the business of fast friends because it just is what it is, you know? So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Yeah, it's a great answer. There's no wrong answers. So when an MSP is looking, okay, I've made up my mind. I'm definitely going to go into virtual desktop. What questions should they be asking prospective vendors?
Vendors or customers? The vendors? I think if an MSP wants to work closely with a VDI partner, there's a couple things that you want to look at. You want to look at the ownership structure of that partner. We're seeing you mentioned it earlier, a lot of the VCs are coming into the space. And a lot of VCs are scooping up these companies. And like, what is their particular North Star? Like for an organization right now, and like, I'm not going to use names here because I don't want to, but there's an example where, you know, a partner, I heard today, a partner got kicked out of a particular program because they considered we're not big enough, but they were one of the first 3 partners ever in the partner program and drove over, you know, a lot of money into that partner. So I think over time, what's happening is like, we're just losing the humanity a little bit. So figure out like who you align with best, who you click with best, and it might be an individual. And then once you're able to connect with that individual, not only on like a corporate level, but you're strategically aligned on your goals, then you can start having more conversations and putting pen to paper. But you got to make sure that the partner has your best interests at heart, along with their interests too. I don't know. I feel like we've kind of lost humanity a little bit in this space, you know? And I think that's why MSPs are so critical to the business. Because if I'm a local business, like I want to work with someone that's local, that's going to come see me, right? COVID kind of made everybody into like these house cats. Nobody wants to leave their house anymore. That's why conferences like this are so critical because people can actually talk to each other. We miss that over Zoom. We miss that over Teams, you know?
Yeah. Nothing can replace face-to-face.
Yeah, like get out and go meet that person.
Yeah.
You know? Take the trip.
Has AI influenced virtual desktop?
Yeah, well, we're seeing virtual desktop change, right? It's going to, you know, mobile device management. We're seeing it move to Intune. It really just depends how you want to package virtual desktops. And you'll see companies who are like, you know, have 5,000 employees and 1,000 of them are on a virtual desktop machine because you can keep that very, very contained, right? But from an AI perspective, one of the things that we're building at Anunta, obviously our impetus is always the digital workspace and the end user experience. That's our laser focus. And so how do we make sure we fix problems before the end user notices it? Like, how do you actually do that? Well, what would you do in the real world? You would pull data, if there was a problem, you would have a war room, and you would pull logs and data from all different sources, network, security, compute all these different logs from all these different tools. And then you would sit down in the war room with your entire team and you would say, okay, let's try this. All right, let's try that. Let's try this and see if it fixes the problem. Well, imagine having a agentic digital war room that is fixing the PCs as it's happening. So you actually limit the amount of tickets that are even coming in at that point because you're self-healing. You're fixing it before it even hits, a ticket, before the user even recognizes that there's a problem. As a user, we might recognize that, okay, after, a 10-second delay, we're noticing that there's a problem with Microsoft Edge. Great, I need to close all my tabs, right? But what happens is the agents look for anomalies in the data and they recognize what's happening. And then what the agents do is they try to triage and figure out the problem and fix it before it becomes a ticket. And so that's what we're building over at Anunta. We're really excited about it. The self-heal, 0 tickets, level 1, level 2 tickets. We want them to be 0. That's our goal. Yep.
Exciting time, Jacci.
Well, AI is the great leveler.
Yeah, it is.
It's the great leveler, people who in 5 years are going to be asking for people to have 5 years of experience building AI in 5 years. That's what they're going to be asking for. And so if you're not starting to at least tinker now, you're going to be left behind for sure. And we're talking more than just ChatGPT and Perplexity. That's the consumer version of, of AI, right? And help me write an email. Help me form my thoughts. Like, what do I use Perplexity for? I talk to it, all of my thoughts in a crazy, I have a lot of ideas. I put it in Perplexity and it just organizes it for me. That is very valuable, but that's not agentic. That's one thing, right? We're really far away though, I think from, I don't think anybody that came to this conference today used agents to book their flights, right? I didn't. Yeah. So we're pretty far away, I think, from it.
We'll see. So I started my MSP in the 90s, Jacci, and I was working I started my father's garage there in Wallingford, and I was working way too hard, 14, 16-hour days. You're no stranger to this. Yeah. Not paying attention to myself. And next thing I know, I'm in front of the doctor, and I gained a bunch of weight. I'm at 340 pounds.
Wow. Holy cow. Well, you look great.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations on your journey.
I appreciate it. Didn't barely recognize I was in my 20s, so I didn't, I just adjusted. But she says to me, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. My daughter was just born. It scared the life out of me. Next 6-7 months, lost about 120 pounds, kept it off. You can't look at it as a finishing line, right? These are like lifelong changes you have to make. When I tell this story, Jacci, I always say, but what's your secret? What you do? There's no secret, just discipline, right? Willpower, focus, routine. How does discipline play a role in your life?
Oh my gosh. Well, when you got 3 kids under 7, it's tough. Listen, it ebbs and flows. It's like what works for us in this moment right now. Right. And it actually does change. So from like a personal perspective, I like the work because the work allows me to put kind of a level of guardrail around it where I don't have as much chaos. Like, don't get me wrong. It's chaotic, right? But at least there's like process, there's flow. Right. We know what's going on. We know what we need to do next. Right? When your kid's sick, you don't know what needs to be done next, right? Like, or you go to the doctor or you try and treat the disease or whatever it is that they have. But, the life part of it is crazy. The discipline and staying healthy, I think for me is important. I have ADHD, and so for me, working out is a way to clear my mind. So I burn the body to clear the head. And so I think as long as your intention is right and you're trying to do the right things. Also with ADHD, food is a big thing. Yeah. If you aren't consuming enough protein, it'll really throw your brain off. And so like there's a lot of different studies out there now, especially as a late diagnosed female with ADHD, that really kind of helps. And it's really about managing the flow of ideas in your head. Wow. And so for me, the discipline really comes from the work ethic comes because I saw my mother work. The work ethic comes because I saw everyone in my family was a small business owner. And so for us, the discipline comes from the framework of work. And then, of course, the discipline in the children, making sure they're in bed on time, right? Just having those routines, I think, are critical. And it's easier said than done. Make no mistake. It's easier said than done. We're trying our best. Yeah. Sometimes you feel like you're not doing anything. Sometimes you feel like you're failing at everything. And you know what? That's just a season.
That's right.
It's just a season.
It happens, yeah.
So what's working for me now is creatine. Helps with the brain.
I use creatine as well.
Yeah, creatine really helps with the brain.
Yeah.
Working out. So I started doing Orange Theory recently.
Oh, that's great.
And running, which I really love and appreciate. And then giving my husband the time to go do the same things, you know.
Yeah. So your message to MSPs this week is what? Forever is what?
What do you mean?
As far as Anunta, what do you want MSPs to know? What's your message to MSPs?
My message to MSPs is, if you're not tinkering with AI, start tinkering with it. Number one, like start doing it. And you don't have to do anything crazy. Start with your back office. Try to take the things you hate doing, like answering RFPs, right? And try to build something on that. Like start there. That's my first thing. From an Anunta perspective, like if you're looking to expand into adjacent, budget with your clients, like we can help you do that. Yeah.
Jackie, I thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. I'm glad you stopped by.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Enjoy
Joey.
the rest of your show.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.